Okay, another update from Facebook, and this makes sense. What we're doing here is looking at the pattern in the hospital, not just the neonatal or maternity unit. The spike of deaths in the hospital was high in 2014. It also coincided with weekends and nights. And I'm going to show you proof here. This is from Lucy Letby, Moment of Truth. In addition, something called legionella, okay, was not looked into. And all the signs are here that it could have occurred. Now, this is where the hospital board has gone wrong and where they hid themselves and did not look at these figures as they should have. Instead, ignored it and just went on their merry way. Again, this is from 2014. It is the hospital as a whole. Now, there was higher mortality at the weekends, worse during the summer months, in contrast to an expected winter rise. That's very important. This is happening not during the winter, but during the non-winter months. I'm going to show you, okay, the most pronounced in 2014, present in the hospital a year before the NICU deaths increased. The chart compares weekend versus weekday mortality. During multiple summer periods, weekend deaths exceeded expected level, while weekday mortality remained lower or closer to baseline. This matters because HSMR is a risk-adjusted case mix already accounted for. The weekend effect is a system signal, not an individual failure. There were multiple possible contributing factors, from known reduced staffing weekend, lack of consultant cover. Consultants don't like working weekends. Though this does not explain why the summer risk was increased both in 2014 across the wider hospital than within the NNU in 2015 and 16. Specific to the hospital reports, there were well-documented push to reduce waste in energy uses, with evening and weekends suggested as a time to set back ventilation systems. That's air circulation. A new BMS system was set up to tackle this, focusing on high usage areas. This often meant theaters. That was put in place before upgrades to obsolete, old, outdated, and non-regulatory compliant refurbishment had been carried out. We know from heavily redacted Facet 6 survey, almost none of the ventilation, water, and heating system in the women's and children's buildings were considered safe in 2022, despite several refurbishments after death, leading to an easy-to-reach conclusion that the waterborne pathogens, such as legionella, were a possible unmanaged risk factor when these cost savings decisions were originally made. Without proper risk assessment, governance, well-maintained, clean, and monitored system, the risk of aerosolized pathogens increased significantly. Immunocompromised neonates had highest risk factors. Babies on air, meaning not getting oxygen, just breathing the air that was not adequately ventilated, often deteriorating more than ventilated babies, leading to confusion. But if the air quality was not being maintained, babies on air would have been more likely to deteriorate. Pathology of in-hospital deaths do not include advanced sampling of pathogens like legionella, as these risks are assumed to be mitigated by strong legislators and governance. Yet we know the hospital is now due to be demolished as it does not meet those standards of safety years after the events in the NNU. A 9-month trial ensued for multiple deaths, yet the building never considered possible contributor apart from a small mention of sewage leaks. Yet every system in place to reduce air risks, air quality, heating, water, and drainage was non-compliant in 2022. So definitely wasn't compliant during the era of Lucy. No one informed the defense. It was kept quiet, hidden, and suppressed. Summer is when reduced ventilation or setback plans would have had their greatest impact. Higher temperatures, higher microbial load, higher physiological stress. Put simply, reduced systems reliance plus summer stress plus weekends and evenings equals predictable harm. The pattern was visible at the board level, present before later catastrophic events, consistent with an environmental or operational risk, not random chance. But the signal was there, it was measurable and ignored. Here it is, guys. I hope I can, okay. Can you read that? Look at it here. Let me see if I can switch this over so you can read this chart better. Okay, let's look at this bottom one here. This is deaths in the hospital. The yellow means is the weekend. Look at that. Hope it'll, oh, I'm hoping it will focus. It won't focus. The blue is what is expected. The yellow was the weekend. Look at that. I don't know if you can read. Hopefully I can get it in here. The months. It's measurable, people. It was there. That was the metrics in 2015, going over what would happen in 2014. They reduced costs, reduced ventilation, and didn't keep up the maintenance in the building. This was withheld from the defense.